Good evening, Tiffany.
Oh, good evening.
How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. How are well,
Yeah,
better.
good
I
enough.
had
Yeah.
had COVID. How are you?
Yeah. Um, did not have COVID, I think. I 3 weeks ago I had whatever I had and I tested twice. It was probably COVID because that's kind of what's going around.
Ah,
But yeah, you're not alone in the world. I'm sorry that it hit you so hard though.
yeah. Well, it didn't hit me that hard. It was just having a child at home with COVID
Yeah.
while also
Yeah.
working.
I mean, and that's kind of the thing right now is that like even if you can send your kid to daycare with COVID, like I don't know. There's like my boyfriend was like, I would just go into the office, and I'm like, you're a bad person then. Like, don't kill old people just because it doesn't hit you very hard, you know?
It's pretty wild to be honest. It's like
Yeah,
she could have gone back right away if
yeah.
she wore a
She didn't have.
mask.
Yeah,
And I was like, "What?" Well, she's 3 and she won't wear a mask, but that's crazy to me that you
yeah.
can just like send them back now.
It's so
She
weird. It's just like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
just gonna have everyone get it, and it's not like I don't know. It is. It's like the flu now, but we just don't talk. We just pretend. I don't know. I don't know. COVID's a weird one,
Yeah, I know.
but I'm
Anyway,
glad you're through the woods.
yeah, thank God. But
Yeah.
you said you have a long intro to this
I
night.
do. So we should probably quit talking about our personal lives and just, well, it is kind of a segue.
Oh, nice.
Did, you knew, and I'm sure I've mentioned it on this podcast several times, I was a member of the Pedestrian Advisory Council for the
Yep.
city of Austin, and I was the
Mm-hmm.
chair in 2021. Well, did you know that our most highly attended meeting by the public, do you know what that centered around?
I can guess
You
just
can
because
guess
I
because
know
it's the
what we're gonna
subject of
talk
tonight's
about. Yeah.
electric scooters.
I would never have guessed
People
that though.
people showed up in droves to complain about about electric scooters in 2018. I've never seen so many
Wow.
people show up at a meeting, and it was because they just hated them. They just hated them,
So
um,
interesting.
and it was interesting because the Austin Pedestrian Advisory Council was like, "No, we love electric scooters because they replace car trips." And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was watching the latest the latest hit movie on Netflix that was cool for a week was called Under Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And I only watched the first 5 minutes because my dog was barking at the TV so much I had to turn it off. It's about sharks that live in the River Seine and
I
in the
heard about
catacombs
this.
under Paris,
Yeah.
which is like, what? Sharks in
Yeah.
Paris? But at the beginning of the movie, they're dredging these electric scooters out of the river because
Yeah.
that's where Parisians throw them because they also hate them. And so a lot of people don't like these, probably because the people who ride them tend to just ignore traffic laws. They just park the scooters willy-nilly on the sidewalk. They run through red lights. They endanger pedestrians by riding on the sidewalk in the first place rather than the street. And they're just generally tourists who don't know where they are or what they're doing. It's very rare to see someone riding a scooter safely. Like you're supposed to wear a helmet. No one wears a helmet. And
No.
also, half the people who are on them are drunk. So,
Well, that is true.
but again, the one thing we kept bringing up in the PAC was that a single ride from an electric scooter is way better than an individual taking that same ride in a gas powered car, right?
Right.
I was surprised to learn that my more urban educated colleagues love the idea of the electric scooter taking over downtown Austin.
Hmm.
So, are these little annoyances actually worthwhile to reduce emissions, relieve congestion, and free up more space in cities? Or should we all just throw them in the river forever?
That's definitely
Tonight
not what
on.
we should do.
No, okay, don't throw them in the river. Should we get rid of them? This is the question that I wanted to know. All
Yeah.
right.
All right.
Welcome to Greening Up My Act.
Nice.
Yeah, so maybe not as long of an intro. It's written very long, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited to talk about these. I was a little surprised by some of the findings, but well, I guess we should start by saying who are we?
Oh, sure. I was gonna say I also have a funny story about a scooter, but I'll save that.
Oh, I'd love to hear that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are greening up my act. We are two marketing writers plus normal people, just trying to figure out.
Quote unquote.
Well, okay, whatever that means.
Normal enough.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just trying to figure out how to live our lives in this chaos of a society slash Earth,
Yeah.
and just kind of deal with all of the environmental consequences and emotions that that brings up of humanity. We're just grappling with it all, but also on a practical level, we look at products or services using our marketing. I almost said hoo ha. That certainly isn't.
Maybe acumen, marketing acumen.
It's just so close. Almost the
There's, I
same.
mean, both have ooh sound in them.
All right. So, yeah, not our hoo ha's. Although sometimes,
Well, we do. Sometimes we use our hoo-has. You just gave
anyway.
me an idea for another season. Anyway.
Oh, lordy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our marketing acumen, better, probably more accurate. Yeah, just look. Yeah, we just look at services and products to see if they are doing what they say they're doing, or if they're a bunch of green hooey, which is what
Mm-hmm.
we like to call it.
Yep. We want to live more sustainable lives. We want to reduce our emissions, and we want to know if anything that advertises it as something that would help you do those things is legit or not. And it's been a lot, very eye-opening, I think, now that we're in
Oh my
season
gosh,
5. Yeah.
I've learned so much.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much I've
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah.
And next season, we're planning to do more like an advocate, advocacy season,
Yeah.
where we're like, at least from my perspective, it's sort of like advocacy 101, like basic, your most basic college, not even college,
Yeah.
elementary class
Yeah. Yes.
on how to
Kindergarten.
be. Yeah, but it's like advocacy for people who aren't like natural activists, I would
Right.
say.
Yeah, like effective,
Personally,
yeah. Effective advocacy for you and me. Yeah.
yeah, like
Normal people.
yeah, people who aren't maybe of the personality to go out on the
Maybe we can't
streets.
all be Greta Thunberg, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot to do. I was reading
Yeah.
something really cool interview. I can't remember what it was in, Time or something. But she was basically saying like what a lot of people say is start local.
Yeah.
And it feels small, but it's not.
It's impactful. Yeah.
Hmm.
You know, I will even say like a lot of places base their studies on, you know, like for instance the electric scooters. A lot of the info out there is based on smaller cities like Austin and what's happened here and
Mm-hmm.
what the rollout has looked like. So, you know, I think we find that over and over again is that some neighborhood like Ridwell was started locally, right? And now it's a national
Yes.
phenomenon.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Not national enough, but that's fine.
No, it's working on it. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, yeah, that's us. Did you want to tell your scooter story before I dig into my
Yeah, sure.
sources? Okay.
It's not. It's kind of like related. You said nobody drives them safely because I was just walking down Connecticut Avenue in DC, and this guy just blasts over the curb, but not on the part of the curb where you're supposed to, like, with the little on ramp. Just the
Right.
curb. He
Oh my
missed
God.
and hit the curb and
Oh,
flew off of the scooter. And he was fine, pretty banged up, actually, like more than you would expect, because he was going
yeah.
pretty fast. And you
Yeah.
could tell that he was just so embarrassed, but everybody around him was like, "Oh my God, can I help you? Can I help you?" And he was just like,
Yeah.
"No," like refusing help because he was just too
Yeah.
embarrassed. But
He was like, I just tried to pop a wheelie. It's like such a kindergarten thing. Like, look, Ma, look what I can do. And then you're like, you're on a freaking electric scooter going 25 miles an hour. This is not
yeah, he was
your
really going fast.
Huffy. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt bad for him, but at the same time, I was like, well, you kind of did that to yourself.
Yeah. There's some Schadenfreude that happens, and we'll get into the safety of electric scooters actually. Um, there's a little Schadenfreude that happens when somebody who's like an arrogant bastard is riding a scooter and they, fail miserably. And
Right, a little bit, a little
just,
bit.
I'd hate to
Yeah.
say it, but, I don't really like seeing anyone suffer, but sometimes it's like tech bros, like, sometimes it's okay. But, okay. Nobody come after me with a torch for saying that, but it feels a little good inside. I'm saying we all have that
Yeah.
feeling from time to time. So,
Yeah, and there are very
um,
nice tech bros. I've met plenty, but
yes, they're
you
lovely
know.
tech bros. I have enjoyed them immensely. But let me get into my sources. The first thing I did was I looked at a Reddit post because sometimes that's a really good starting point. It was Are e-scooters polluters? And that led me
Hmm.
to an article, The Environmental Impacts of Shared Dockless Electric Scooters by IOP Science. It's the IOP. Then I looked at Knot, which is a scooter company, and they have Are e-scooters good for the environment? Obviously, take all that with a grain of salt because they create them, but they had a lot of really good information in there. An article from a UK place called Cenex, CENEX, is called Maximizing the Benefits of E-Scooter Deployment in Cities. Okay, and I had a lot of. Oh no, I'm back to having too many sources. But the Colorado Sun had electric scooters are the most efficient way to cut greenhouse gas emissions.
Hmm.
Another scooter producer called Apollo had 7 reasons e-scooters are better than cars. Consumer Reports had a new study shows safety risks of riding e-scooters on the sidewalk. And then Wired, e-scooter rentals aren't as green as you think. So you can see
Good lord,
there's quite some, yeah.
all over the board.
And we'll get into how that's possible because,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Yeah, this
what?
is a good topic then because it's wow. That's
Yeah,
there's a lot of different
there's a lot in
information.
here. Yeah. So, we're talking about electric scooters, if you haven't gotten that, otherwise known as e scooters. Um, this includes personal use e scooters and then the shared electric scooters provided by Lime, Bird, all those.
Mm-hmm.
So, I looked at both of them, and that's where you're going to see the disparity. I'm just going to throw that up out front.
Oh, okay.
Um, so in 2019, which I think was the last time we really have a lot of data on it, people in the U.S. took 86 million trips on shared scooters.
Shared scooters. Okay.
Yeah, so and there's so many companies that do it all over the U.S. and all over the world. But yeah, that's what we're talking about. Not like razor scooters, that don't have these are electric. We're not talking about mopeds. We're not talking about anything that uses gasoline. That's
Okay.
it. Can we pause for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
Sean was calling me and I'm trying to figure out what he needs. Hang on
Yep.
a second. Okay, little
I was gonna
domestic drama
say,
there.
tell them hi.
Yeah, oh, I
Um.
will.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
No, but you're like that's like a real time example of a sustainable choice.
Yes, well, I
Facebook
mean,
Marketplace, I'm guessing.
yeah, that was it wasn't, it was a Buy Nothing group, yeah, but
Oh, okay. Yep.
yeah, sorry for that. We'll probably edit that out, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that interruption we were just talking about was my boyfriend picking something up for our dog. So, okay.
And not new. There you go.
Yep. Okay, so what eco-friendly claims do electric scooters make? And this is just in general and for personal use scooters, and also the electric scooter companies claim these as well. Because just in the wild, why would you want an electric scooter rather than some other mode of transportation? Number one, because they're electric, they don't have any emissions when in
I thought
use,
you were
just
gonna
like
ask
electric
me.
cars. Oh no. Well, why
I
would
was like,
you
I
want an
can
electric
guess.
scooter?
I want to
Yeah.
guess. No, go
Oh,
ahead.
sure, if you want. I
Well,
mean, it's all the same reasons as electric cars, basically,
yeah.
right? They're electric, so they don't emit CO2. They're energy efficient. Electric motors, as we went through in EVs, are far more efficient than gas motors. Um, they also reduce congestion in large urban areas because cars take up a lot more room. You don't need giant parking lots for e-scooters. So there's more space to have like parkland or pedestrian walkable areas in cities, you know. And then another reason it's more sustainable, owning an e-scooter is less expensive than owning a car,
Hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's another, we've been talking about economic reasons. You don't have to buy gas for it. So that's the eco-friendly claims. Now, do these claims hold up? And that's when it starts getting a little interesting. So
A
most of
little
the emissions,
hairy.
yeah, and it's the same as it was with EVs, right? Most of the
Yeah.
emissions generated by scooters happen during their production.
Okay.
So 50% of their lifespan emissions come from their manufacture. So
Okay.
over
Wow.
the entire existence of an e-scooter, and we talk about lifetime emissions because it's not like every day an electric scooter emits so much CO2 because it doesn't for the entire time you're using it. But also with any electric item, the emissions that are generated are how it gets powered, how the electric, what generates the
Mm-hmm.
electricity. Like if it's a coal powered power plant, that counts towards the CO2, right, of the
Yeah.
product itself. Same with EVs. So, but their manufacture is obviously the dirtiest part of them, 50% of their lifespan emissions. So Cynic says private e-scooters, the ones that you would just have at home, can produce up to 67 grams of CO2 per kilometer of their lifespan. And compare this to a car, which does 350 grams per kilometer over its entire lifespan. Now, that
Okay.
includes manufacture. Okay, so the
Okay.
lifespan is 67 grams for every kilometer driven.
Gotcha.
So they're better than gas cars, similar to electric vehicles. So, yes, that is true. They do produce less emissions, even considering their the emissions from their manufacturer and
Do
when
you
they're
know how
charged.
long their like lifespan usually is?
It depends on how often you use it.
Okay.
Um, but that's another issue that
Okay.
we'll get into. Because they're smaller than electric cars, they take up fewer resources than producing a car, right? And therefore, even producing them produces fewer emissions than producing an electric vehicle.
Right. Yeah. I would
Apollo
hope.
says e-scooters are 1,000 times more efficient than cars
Whoa.
just because they're little, right? So it takes less power to propel them forward.
Mm-hmm.
It would take the average person. Okay, this is something that is really interesting too. It would take the average person 9 times as much energy to walk the same distance as it would for them to just ride a scooter. This
Whoa.
is this is going to be an interesting thing. Okay. So that article in the Colorado Sun ranked e-scooters as better than walking for the environment,
Mm-hmm.
which I was like, nah, my hooey meter went off. But they said because the standard American diet produces a lot more greenhouse emissions than just charging an electric scooter, the energy that we would need to consume to go the same, 3, 4 miles that a scooter would do, technically in our lifespan produces more CO2 than the
Whoa.
scooter, which blew my mind. And it kind of went along with that um, member of local Congress a few weeks ago we talked about who said that, bicycling was bad for the environment.
Yeah.
To some extent, I mean, bicycling is worse than an electric scooter in that sense. If you're taking what fuels the bicycle
Yeah.
is your body, your metabolism, and because of how, if you're not eating like a CO2 free diet, which I don't think anybody in this country could do, you're technically creating more emissions through that. It is a stretch. It is a stretch.
Wow. That's deep.
But if we're talking about lifespan emissions, a human being's diet does probably contribute more than an electric scooter, an EV, you know. So anyway, that was an interesting way of looking at it.
Lord. Well,
So yeah,
what about the fact that you're okay? Because then we can get into like, but then it's exercise. So
yeah,
then you're probably going to be in slightly better shape. So then you might
you'll
not,
get
I don't
better. You'll
know.
be more efficient, but
Yeah,
you
your
need more
health is going to be.
calories to burn. I mean, like people who exercise have higher metabolism, so they need more food. So
Yeah.
unless you're growing all that food yourself, you know, the way that your
Yeah.
bread is produced, the way, where your factory farm is. So
I just feel
I
like it's
don't
a
know.
slippery slope there,
It
but
is. It is.
yeah.
I mean, and then it gets into the best thing for the environment would be if human beings just disappeared altogether, which a lot of people argue.
Yeah. Which
That's not what I
I
want to
have,
argue.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I have like hinted at that before, but
Yeah. I
I'm
mean, if
on
we
the other,
all, you know, if the population was decimated and we couldn't have air conditioning or cars or anything, yeah, then probably nature would return very quickly. But we're not,
well,
self eradication is not what this
yeah,
episode is
and
about.
yeah, I'm kind of on the other side of the fence with that now, where I think like our job as humans is actually to assist nature, and that's why we've been put
Right.
here. So,
Stewards thereof rather than
yes,
destroyers of
yes,
or
exactly.
users of. Yeah.
Yeah, we just,
So,
it's very easy to become disconnected from that. So,
yes. I think, and that's something we should talk about in our next season
yep.
for sure. So anyway, okay, so yes, they are more efficient. They do not even if you consider charging them and their production, they are more efficient than almost any other mode of transport. They do reduce traffic congestion as long as the riders are following the rules and not causing accidents. So, having a personal electric scooter, yes, is better for the environment than other options. If you're just going 3 to 4 miles, it's better to have a personal scooter than to take your car. And it
Yeah.
may be better than taking a bike. I don't think so. But, you know, um, if you have to get there quickly, I mean, it is
Better
a
if you,
solid choice.
maybe that's it. Maybe it's like it's better if you're only thinking about
Yeah.
environmental
Yes.
consequences
Yes.
and you're
And
solely focused on
specifically
that.
from emissions,
Yeah,
specifically
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
emissions. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, shared scooters are where we have a problem.
Oh.
So,
Whoa.
now we're talking about shared scooters provided by Lime. Bird are the main ones here in Austin, and those are run by Uber and Lyft. They are shared mobility. So they're basically ride shares, they're just personal scooters. And I
Yeah.
guess I should tell people how they work. If you live in a city that doesn't have them, with the shared scooter system, basically you download an app to your phone that shows you where in the vicinity there are scooters. And whatever that brand scooter is. So you can have both apps. I have both apps on my phone, and it'll show you the closest one. Then you get to the scooter, you scan a QR code on the scooter, it unlocks the scooter, and then it charges you by the mile. It charges you an initial fee, usually about $1, to unlock the scooter, and then by the mile, how far you go. And then wherever you end up, you put the scooter on its little
Stand.
what do you stand? Yes, bike stand. It's a scooter stand. Take a picture of it and stop the ride, and then it stops charging you from there. So they change the pricing depending on where you are and all these things. But the rules are you're not supposed to ride the scooter on the sidewalk. You're not supposed to leave it like in a driveway or in the middle of the sidewalk. You're supposed to leave it, parked somewhere safe where it can't get hit by a
Yeah.
car, which people never
Or
do.
be in people's way.
Yeah. Um, Not in someone's driveway, you know, and then you leave it and then somebody else can come and find it and pick it up and take it wherever. So that's how these shared scooters work.
And there's no subscription for it. It's
No,
just like
that I
Uber.
know
Okay.
of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of just like Uber and they can do surge pricing and they could do, all those things.
Ah.
They're not very transparent with their pricing model either.
Go figure.
I didn't go very deep into looking at it. But so here's the issue with shared scooters. Their lifespan is way shorter, about 4 months on average, compared to
Whoa.
individual scooters because people don't care for them.
You said
For
their
instance,
lifespan is 4 months?
yes,
Or
a single scooter on average lives for 4 months, a shared
what?
scooter.
I
Yes.
thought you at first meant 4 months shorter than the
No,
other ones. No, no.
no. I believe a regular scooter is 10 years, but an electric scooter is a shared. scooters 3 to 4 months. And this is because people throw them in the river and they get run over by cars and, all of those things. People destroy them. People, when they're done with them, they throw them down. People are drunk when they're riding them and they run them into potholes. They run them off the side of the curb. They don't take care of them.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
insane.
Wired said, according to a 2019 study conducted in the U.S. state of North Carolina, shared e-scooters produce 202 grams of CO2 per passenger mile over their entire life cycle. So
And
that's
what was
more than an
cars?
electric moped. Well, yeah.
Cars
So
was like 300 something.
it was 350 per kilometer. So it's
Oh,
a kilometer is what, you know,
about 3 miles.
I know the opposite.
Yeah, you're right.
Um, 2.5 kilometers per mile, I guess.
Oh, right. Oh my God, math.
Two kilometers. Yeah. So it'd be like, okay, it's still like that's 202 grams of CO2 per passenger mile, where it was, they're saying 67 grams per kilometer for
Wow.
a individual scooter that's owned by a
So
person.
almost triple.
Yeah.
Wow.
Compared to an electric moped, which is 119 grams, electric bicycle, which is 40 grams, a bicycle is 8 grams, and even a diesel bus is 82 grams, assuming it has high ridership, which we talked about during our bus thing.
Whoa.
So, though the study found that e scooters produce lower carbon emissions than a shared car, so an Uber is 415 grams per passenger mile over its life cycle, it
Mm-hmm.
said. Only 34% of the e scooter trips analyzed replaced a journey that would have been taken in a car. So, not only are shared scooters worse because their life's, well, and I'll get it, there's more to it than just their life cycle, but um, they don't replace cars. People aren't using them instead of cars. People are using them
Okay.
instead of the subway. People are using them instead of walking.
So
So they're
similar
not replacing
to,
cars.
yeah. So
Yep.
like Uber. Exactly
Yep.
same.
A
Interesting.
study in Paris in 2020 found that shared e-scooters added 13,000 metric tons of greenhouse gases to the city's carbon footprint over a year because the trips were replacing journeys made on lower emitting modes of transportation.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. One study found on average a shared e-scooter creates 51 more grams of CO2 per kilometer than whatever type of transportation it's replacing. The subway, the bus, your bike, you know. Okay. A lot of this is due to bad design in the early years of e-scooters, where they were lightweight and meant for personal use, so a lot of them didn't last, which meant replacing aluminum frames and lithium ion batteries a lot more often, right?
Okay.
Now, the big kicker is to charge these suckers, because they're just left willy nilly when they run out of a battery. People come around, they pay individuals to pick them up and charge them in their houses.
Oh, really?
So people
What?
drive around with trucks and bus or vans and pick up the scooters and charge them. Now, daily collection for charging them accounts for 43% of a shared e-scooter's pollution.
Wow.
Yeah. Then the drivers have to redistribute them in areas where they'll be picked up. So they pick them
That's
up, they go around the
insane.
city picking them up, bring them to their home or wherever to charge them, and then redistribute them. So that's, a lot of extra car trips that wouldn't exist if the e-scooter didn't need to be charged.
That's wild. I
Yep.
had no idea.
And if a scooter is left somewhere, say for instance, like my friend rode a scooter here Sunday night because he lives downtown. It's like 2.5 miles. So he rode a scooter here and left it here. I'm not in the middle of the city. That scooter's been out there for 4 days. I don't know who's going to pick it up next. Maybe I'll ride it next. But scooters
Yeah.
left in a neighborhood like mine, they're, the closest bar is a 10-minute walk. So maybe somebody will walk over here and grab it. I doubt it, and none of us
Yeah.
use our scooters around here. So it's going to sit there for a while until a driver comes and picks it up and takes it somewhere else.
Wow.
So, all of these cars driving around make up 93% of the carbon emissions you can say shared e-scooters cause.
Whoa.
So it just created a new car problem, is what it did.
That's insane. I had no idea.
Yeah. So shared e-scooters, not green. Green on the surface, look green, but they're replacing lower carbon trips, not car trips. Because You take a scooter because you're in the middle of the city and you don't have a car and you don't feel like waiting for the subway. You don't take a scooter, you know, you might take a scooter if you have a car and you don't want to deal with parking. But
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, that's not what they're for.
Yeah. I Yeah, I'm just like kind of in shock.
Yeah.
I feel like I have seen those people driving around DC before. I'm sure I have.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like a
I've,
truck bed full of.
yeah, truck.
But I
Or
didn't think about it.
there's one guy here who collects them without a car and he just rides like 8 scooters at a time.
What?
Or maybe he does collect them. He rides he'll collect all the scooters and ride them all together to his car and put them in, which is
Whoa.
quite a feat. But
Yeah, that's sounds
yeah,
unsafe, but hey, if you know what you're doing, I guess.
yeah.
Wow.
Now the next thing is I want to talk about is that we talked about a little bit. They're kind of dangerous. Shared
Mm-hmm.
scooters. IIHS researchers found that e-scooter riders sustained more injuries per mile than bicyclists and were twice as likely to be injured because of potholes, pavement cracks, lampposts, and signposts, although bicyclists were 3 times as likely to be hit by a motor vehicle. Probably because most scooters ride on the sidewalk where they're not supposed
Yeah.
to go. Speaking
Wow.
of, I want to throw this out there. My roommate got hit by a car last week.
Yeah.
I told you about that. We
How
didn't
does
record. We're a week behind recording this week because my roommate got hit by a car and my puppy got spayed the same day. And it
And
was
I
like,
had COVID, so
and
it
she had
wasn't gonna
COVID. Yeah, it
happen.
was just, yeah. So anyway,
How's
people are
he?
crazy. He's fine. He's been staying home from work. He fractured a bone in his wrist.
Okay.
And he has contusion on a big bruise on his knee and he's limping from his hip. I took him to urgent care and they said he was okay, except for that fracture in his wrist. And they gave him a brace, but his bike's trashed, and it
Yeah.
was a hit and run, and the police aren't doing
Ugh.
anything about it. And like that person should be in jail. If you can hit someone at 7:40 in the morning and just keep going on your merry little way to
That's
work or wherever you're going,
absolutely insane.
yeah, you're a monster. Imagine if he had been shot at.
Yeah.
They would be hunting that person down. But cars are deadly weapons, and we just he was and he had the right of way. The light was green. It was turning yellow, and the person ran the yellow light. Anyway,
Wow. No witnesses, I'm guessing.
nobody stopped. Somebody said, "Oh, there's." He said somebody stopped, but they said that there were cameras at that intersection, so he should be fine.
Ah. Ay,
Nobody's
ay,
doing anything.
ay.
They won't even take a police report because he wasn't seriously injured.
What?
I know.
My God.
I've been emailing my friends on the backpack, the bicycle advisory council and the pedestrian advisory council to see if there's anything, but nobody's gotten back to me. So anyway, scooters are not safe generally.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Scooter riders are also less likely to wear a helmet than a bicyclist, which
Yep.
means they're more likely to suffer from skull fractures and loss of consciousness, which is terrifying.
Yeah, that is. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've ever seen a scooter rider wear a helmet, except for maybe if they have their own. But
Yeah,
that's
people
it.
who own their own might, but most people don't. And it tells you when you go to log in to ride one, like they scan your driver's license, I guess, to match up your credit card, and then they make you swear you're not drunk, and they make you say you're wearing a helmet. So you basically sign your liability away, but nobody's
Wow.
wearing a helmet on those things. And it's not like they're not, you don't have to take a picture of yourself with a helmet on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because, like, who
Beyond,
carries a helmet around?
I
Nobody.
know, nobody.
Even when I was
Weirdos.
biking, I would lock it on my bike, you
Yeah.
know?
I might put it on my backpack if I was in a real shady neighborhood, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, they're not safe. Also, scooter riders are more likely to be inexperienced compared to cyclists,
Ah, yep.
which makes them even more dangerous. And they're more likely to be tourists in a place they don't know. So that makes you even more dangerous if you don't know, okay, wait, I'm supposed to be turning left here. What do I do? They
Yeah.
don't know the rules. There were ads the last time I was in Paris 5 years ago. There were ads all over saying, don't ride on the sidewalk. Most people don't know. You're not supposed to ride on the sidewalk. You're
Yeah.
supposed to ride on the street. But that is another question. Where are scooters supposed to go? They're not great on sidewalks because those tend to be bumpy. Again, you jump all over the place. Also, they can hit pedestrians.
Yeah.
And anytime something going faster than you that's motorized hits you, you're more likely to be hurt. So a pedestrian
Yeah.
is more likely to be injured by a scooter than vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want them on the road because cars will just run them over. They're not
Mm-hmm.
fast enough for the road. But if you put them in the bike lane, they pose other hazards. They usually
If
go,
a bike lane exists, yeah.
yeah. They usually are going slower than cyclists because people are kind of figuring them out and you don't have the full throttle. Also, you have less control over them when you go really fast. It feels kind of weird. So they're just dangerous, basically,
Mm-hmm.
if they're shared scooters for all those reasons. Okay, so the next thing that we've been asking this season is this something a normal person could do or afford? Okay, so now we're going to go into costs. So the average price of a car in 2021 was $42,000 or more. That's a new car.
That's
A
insane.
scooter can cost as little as 300 or as much as 3,000.
Whoa, that's way less than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
And we talked about this when we were talking about EVs and bus and everything else. Car maintenance and gas costs can go up to $10,000 a year. About $3,000 of that is on gas on average for an American. So keeping a scooter charged costs about $10 a year in electric.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
$10 a year. You also don't have to register an e-scooter, so there's
Okay.
that cost. But with the average person driving 30 miles or more a day, a scooter probably won't be your primary way to commute, right? The trips under 10 miles, which about 80% of America's trips are 10 miles or below.
Yeah.
That's probably good for a scooter. It's a little too far for a bike. It's definitely too far to walk. If you don't have public transit, you take a scooter instead of your car. Great. Now, shared scooters, replacing a shared scooter replacing your car trips with a shared scooter is kind of hard to nail down for the pricing. For they're like ride shares, like the prices vary wildly by your location, the time of day, the type of scooter, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Most scooters have at least a $1 charge to get them started, and then they charge a certain fare per mile.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, a scooter can only hold one person legally.
Right.
I've definitely seen two people on scooters before.
Yep. Yep.
If you're going to get an Uber for four people at $12, but instead you get four scooters and they're $8 each, you're spending more total for the ride. Also,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to tip a scooter.
Yeah.
So there's that
Yeah,
cost to
that's
consider.
true. Yeah.
Also, you can't get electric scooter ride shares everywhere. They're only in major urban centers. You're not going to be in the suburbs and be like, I'm going to ride my scooter back into DC right now. Like, you're not going to cross the George Washington Bridge in a scooter
No.
to commute to work every day. So, you could probably afford a scooter more than a car if you're a city dweller and you
Mm-hmm.
need a way to get around the city conveniently. I mean, I have a friend in New York who is physically disabled, and an electric scooter is a lot easier than taking the subway for her.
Yep.
So she's like, it gave me my life back. Great.
That's
She doesn't have to
awesome.
climb stairs or find an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I'm here in Austin even where we have shared scooters all over the place. If I worked downtown, which is 2, 3 miles away, I'd probably walk. But I
Mm-hmm.
might take a scooter sometimes. Sometimes we take the scooter home from the bar. But yeah, it's kind of not. It's a great mode of transport to own yourself, but only if you live in an urban center where it makes sense and would replace a
Right.
car,
Yeah, I
right? Or
am
if you don't
not.
have good public transit. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be driving or riding an electric scooter down my road.
No. No.
Which,
If you wouldn't bike it, you wouldn't ride a scooter down it.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah. So that brings us to, does the Earth friendly message need to come back to Earth? And I pretty much said unequivocally, yeah, it does.
Yeah. Wow.
So companies like Lime, Voy was another one, and Bird, they're working on that driving around to charge the scooter issue.
Okay. There's got to be a
And
better way.
yeah, they're working on it, like optimizing routes for drivers, etc. I mean, when they originally started, I know they were just hiring like it was kind of like Uber drivers. They'd be like, "Yeah, if you have a van and you want to pick up all these things and charge them, we'll pay you however much to charge them." You know, and so it was independent contractors who were doing it. I think now there may be fleets of people assigned to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who can fit all those? Like, if you have multiple scooters, where do you
Yeah,
put them?
you need a
Unless you have a
van or a
garage, I
truck.
guess. Well,
Yeah,
and then
I
your
mean,
house too, though.
yeah, people do setups. They have great like because they just plug in. So
Yeah.
they're also working on these are basically disposable vehicles problem.
Uh
They're
huh.
working on designing better scooters. Like, for instance, one of the things they're working on is creating a swappable battery. So
Hmm.
instead of having to pick up the scooter, drive it somewhere to charge it, and then drive it back, you would just swap the battery out.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, they're working on that. And they're making them lighter and more eco-friendly and, working on recycling. But in most major cities, there's already a more sustainable option. Bus, subway, walking that you could take rather than a shared e-scooter.
Mm-hmm.
They are better in places where there aren't great transportation options like Austin, but it's urban enough that people need to go a distance that they wouldn't walk. So more than 2 miles, well, probably more than a mile and a half for most people, electric scooter probably makes sense. If you have to wait a half hour for a bus, yeah, electric scooter probably
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. So now we're going to talk about our granola rating. And you know what? I realized that we totally forgot to take a break this episode, but that's
We
okay. We can
did.
make
I
we can make the break when Sean called.
There you go. Oh, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah. So every week we rate the system or service or product that we're talking about on our granola rating meter or our green hooey meter, which Tiffany came up with, which is brilliant. Because, you know, green living includes granola. And it's a scale of 1 to 5 granolas, with crunchy being, the crunchier the better. So level 1 is a soggy, that's bad. Level 2 is a mushy, it's still pretty bad. 3 is chewy, and that's, okay. 4 is crunchy, which is great, and 5 is break your tooth off, which is the absolute best you can do. Um, I'm giving this a chewy, a 3.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
e-scooters, shared e-scooters get a 1.
Yeah.
Uh, Regular e-scooters get a 4, a crunchy, I would
Yeah.
say. So the e-scooters bring down the crunchiness of or the shared e-scooters bring down the crunchiness level of the personal scooters too. I'd say it's a chewy.
Yeah.
Great for places like Austin where there's an urban center but not a lot of public transit. Less great in places like New York, Chicago, or Paris, where riding the bus or the subway is a more eco-friendly option. And
Yeah.
if you live in a city and need to get around, a private e-scooter is an economical, eco-friendly option, but most people just need to quit throwing them in the river.
For real.
And I didn't even get into the pollution of them in places like that. I mean, that obviously it's litter, and like you don't want a ion battery and aluminum and heavy metals in your water systems. I mean, people were throwing them
Yeah.
in the waterways here too for a while. So, anyway, so that's e-scooters. Thank you for
Yeah. I mean,
listening.
I'm sure they threw them in the river in DC too.
Oh yeah, people just hated them,
Yeah.
and I kind of hate them now too. In
Yeah.
a
Same. I'm
way,
like, man.
I wish they were better because I was like, oh, e-scooters are great, but they're not replacing car rides.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so
Interesting.
yeah, so
Wow. That's eye opening.
yeah,
I've only ridden one like once, and
yeah,
that was just for fun,
twice.
to be
Yeah,
honest.
I was
So
like, we got to try this, I guess. Sean used to hate him. He'd be like, nobody looks cool on a scooter, and now he's like, maybe we should get a scooter. Somebody bought him a ride once, and he's like, this is actually kind of great. And I
yeah,
think
it's fun.
it is fun. They're fast. I mean, especially for like people with more testosterone than others who
Yeah.
get a thrill out of that kind of feeling. But I'm scared to death of them. You hit I'm like, if I hit a pothole, I'm dead.
Yeah. I know. I know.
So,
God. I got pretty fast on my bike a couple times though, where I was like,
oh yeah,
this is probably like
this is
it
dangerous.
just runs through your head where you're like, if
Yeah,
I crashed, that would
yeah,
really suck right
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Going downhill or whatever.
yeah. Or if there's a stop sign at the bottom, and you're like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna go head over heels on this one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
head over
Mm-hmm.
handlebars. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know next week we've got 15-minute cities.
Yes. Oh man, that one is going to be intense
Yeah.
in a good way, I think. But it's got like conspiracy theories.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait.
Yeah, like conspiracists are obsessed with 15-minute cities. It's
Oh wow.
crazy. It's
I bet
crazy.
they're trying to control us through them or something. Or I can't.
Uh,
Well, I'm excited.
yeah, we'll see. But it's gonna be nuts. So I'm pretty
Cool.
excited about that. That's the one I'm most excited about this season. So,
Awesome. Cool.
Oy.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Patreon.
Patreon. Yes, please subscribe to our Patreon. We have we're putting up a third episode soon
Yeah,
about mommy stuff. So
yeah.
get excited.
Consumption, maybe. I'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
With
We'll see where it goes.
motherhood. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening. And
Thank you.
don't ride an e-scooter home unless you own it. Ha.
There you go. All right.
Bye.
Bye.